All right. Well, hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our release recap for October 2025. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hi, Andrea. So we thought we'd have a little fun today and dress up for the occasion. I'm Amanda. I'm gonna get started with our USAS. I'm also gonna t touch on inventory, and then we are doing Ippy Dippy as well. And then I'll hand it over to Lori for USPS after that. So okay, so first we're gonna talk about USAS. We had two regular releases and two hot fixes for USAS. Um, some things to talk about here. First of all, for improvements, we had the account change. We've been working on performance improvements for account change. And this also ties into sort of our prep for fund change as well. So there have been several improvements to account change, significant improvements. And this is to the part of the process for updating requisitions, receipts, refunds, distributions, and transfers and advances that are tied to those accounts that need account changed, that may be involved in account changes. Thank you, thank you. Um, Okay, and then the other thing that we did is we implemented the ability to import AR billing transactions via spreadsheet. So there's now an import button on the AR billing grid, and that accepts the CSV file. And it works pretty much the same as our other import features on the transaction grid. So like the PO import, invoice import, that sort of thing. I am going to show you that one. We have added it to the documentation here. So this takes you to the link. Actually, you know what? Let me go back. Let me just open this in another tab so we don't lose our spot here. Okay. So let's see. So we're going to the import billings. So we have the criteria is listed below. We have sort of the standard information here, an example, and then we have the grid that lays out like here's what the field name needs to be, here's the information that needs to be added, and which ones are required fields. So that is listed out. There is also a template linked here. So let me get my template open real quick and show you. So I just made a really simple one, um, just so we can kind of see the basics of what this looks like. This is similar to honestly the example that is in the documentation as well. So you'd have your code, your customer number, location and line number, the amount, account. I have my date and description in here. And we don't have to enter in the number. If we leave it, it will default. And then it would just, if I had multiple, it would just like assign a new number every time the line number changes, is like starts at one again. Um, So there is our example. We do have to save it as CSV, so you want to make sure it's a CSV file. And let's get into USAS real quick. Okay, so we are going to the accounts receivable. Let me zoom in here too. We're going to accounts receivable. This is for the billings. I don't know if you can see, but I even have a black cat mug. Um, Okay, so once we're on this grid, I have the import option at the top here. So if we click import, this looks just like the imports with the other grids. We would choose our file. And then we just click load. And it's going to go ahead, tell us how many records loaded. If we have any errors, we do get the error file that pops up in our downloads, and that would tell us what the records are that are in errors and what those errors are. So pretty simple there. Let me go back here. We have some of the details. So this lists the required fields I mentioned. Um, if the date field is not provided, the value is going to default to the current date. Um, and let's see. If choosing to allow the billing number to auto assign, so like I mentioned, if we were to leave that blank, leave the number blank, it would assign a number and then change to a new number each time the item number one is encountered. Um, and then if you've populated the days till due value on the ledger code, the due date will be populated, so it'll calculate what that date should be when it gets processed to the billings UI. So those are the USAS improvements, items to address bugs. So we had a problem that prevented the AR billing transactions. Um, so let me see. You know what? I just realized I can only see Andrea. Oh my gosh, I need to make this bigger. I missed that I could see my whole team, and I just saw that everyone's cameras are on. You all look amazing. So sorry, I got a little bit thrown off because I was like, wait a second, I need to see everyone. Okay, so yeah, we had a problem that prevented AR billing transactions that's been corrected. Correction to the REST version value. So the REST service is something we've been working on sort of in the background. That one isn't anything that you all will see. And then we corrected a bug with the account change process that impacted prior year purchase orders. So it had the remaining encumbrance looking odd on the purchase orders. We had two districts that were affected by this, and we included a patch with this to specifically like update their transactions to fix them. And then we also had another patch for district data to remove a future posting period. This was, again, one specific district that we were just going in and updating for them. So that's USAS. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I'm gonna scoot right along here to inventory too, but definitely still let me know. We can always loop back. Because inventory pretty simple here. I don't have anything we're gonna jump in to look at for inventory, but we had a couple hot fixes. So we had two hot fixes to address some bugs that were found. The first one, we corrected the schedule of change and depreciation detail report. We had a district report. They had changed their capitalization criteria, and on the detail version, it was inflating the depreciation error adjustments. So specifically for the schedule of change and depreciation report, just in the scenario where the cap criteria had changed, this has been fixed. So this specific issue with that shouldn't run into anymore. I noticed we have been getting a couple different tickets about people changing their capitalization criteria recently, so it's good we got this one in. Um, and then the other thing is that we corrected the posting of disposition and transfer transactions. So this one, some of y'all might have gotten an email from Jody yesterday. And so what we found, we had a couple reports of this where there were just exception situations where an item would show as disposed, but there was actually no disposition record. And it had to do with, I think, the disposition being like edited after the fact. Basically, it was disappearing. You know, it's Halloween. The ghost got in there and just grabbed the disposition. So we had a couple districts that we worked with this. We do have a way to fix these. And what the team did is, along with fixing the bug to prevent this for both dispositions and transfers, they ran a patch on all the districts that use inventory to try and identify these. So, you know, that's the thing. Sometimes it's hard to say like what is missing. So they have a list and they're reaching out to you all. And so that's what Jody's message was, to kind of get that started, to reach out to you all at the ITCs. If you have districts that need this fixed, we definitely want to make it as painless as possible. So I know Jody is working on some detail there to provide you. So hopefully it should be pretty painless to get those back in there before they cause any problems. And again, this bug fix makes sure it can't happen going forward. Okay. We're making good time. The next thing I'm gonna go ahead and skip ahead to is Ippy Dippy. So this is our first time doing Ippy Dippy with the release recap, so it's exciting to have it in here. So I'm just scrolling down a little bit. I probably should have gone to the headers, but we're going for it. Um, Sorry. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, so we had a few releases here. We had four regular releases for Ippy Dippy. We had a hot fix. Ippy Dippy is still on the cycle of once a week, so that's why we're seeing a lot more releases here. We have some exciting things to talk about as well. So as far as new features, and we're gonna definitely take a look in the software here. Oh, you know what? Um, nope. Okay. I thought I had a backup admin account. Sorry. So we'll get logged in here, and the first thing. Oh my goodness. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. I usually log into that before we would be on the live. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is a new ability to send emails to users without an approved plan. So where this is. This is going to be something that is able to be seen by admin, committee member, or district manager users. So this is going to be underneath the plan's header. We have this page, users without approved plan. The page itself was here. It's been here previously. It lists any of the users, again, that don't have an approved plan. Pretty straightforward. But what you can do now is you have this email icon next to each name, or we could check different users and then choose to send an email to them. It'll say send a reminder email to 3 users. Yes, we can do that. And that'll send off an email like reminding them like, hey, you need to enter a plan. Um, so that makes it nice and easy to get those messages out. Where before this was kind of just a plain like for reference grid. So that's been added. Um, as far as improvements as well, so we've made some updates to the district plan view. Again, this is for admin, committee member, district manager. The first thing is that we allowed editing the plan certifications from the district plan view after a plan has been approved. So a regular user on their own plan, even after the plan has been approved, they can update most of the fields. That was something from our focus group. They said, hey, these plans are 5 years long. So, there are definitely things that would need edited over time. However, the professional certifications, like the license that they apply to, should not change. So a regular user, after they create their plan, they don't have access to be changing the licenses that they've applied that plan for. If they need a plan for another license, that current plan needs to be finished and archived, and then they would open a new plan like for the license they need it for. However, what we had happen is, it's tough when we're bringing over a lot of legacy data, and so we had some ITCs run into an issue where all of the licenses on a plan were expired, and it was truly supposed to be their plan. It was just basically like how to do with the data. And so what we wanted to do was add a way where managing users, so again, this is not to the average user, this is just those users that are managing or committee members, could come in here and modify the licenses in the exception when it's needed. And so we have the edit option on the grid here, and you could come in and add a certification. And I'm in test data, so I don't I shouldn't have clicked that. I don't actually have any certifications because those are based on the user's actual ID number, and I have fake users in here. But basically, you would be able to come in here and apply the certification, and then be able to save this and make the change on the plan. You can also remove licenses from a plan. We just had a conversation about that though. We are going to lock it down a little bit more so that if the certifications are used on an activity, it won't be able to be removed like by anyone because it's already got like activity associated with it. So we'll have some changes that we're still kind of like adding in with that in the future, but we're just trying to make sure this is like as flexible as needed, but also as locked down. So, um, the other thing here, you see, we have this archive button. Let me go into one where I can actually archive it. Um, let's see. Oh, I was gonna show one that we can unarchive. So in the case where a plan can be archived, again, in order to be archived, all the activities associated with the plan and the plan have to be approved, or if all the activities are denied, either approve or denied. So you can't have any like outstanding activities, and then the plan's available to be archived. So I'm in the district plans as like a committee member, district manager. And so if that was the case, I would be able to use the archive button here, or if available, it shows in the first column here. We also added an unarchive button. So that's what you're seeing on these archived plans. And there's a little pop-up here. What the unarchive is like we basically were asked to add an undo with that because, I know that it happens where sometimes you click a button or two and may not need to or realize it was the wrong plan or something like that. Um, so archiving, first of all, was previously only available to the user who created the plan. Um, so it would be if they, go in and archive their plan. So first, then we had the request to say, okay, let's make unarchive available. Unarchive is available to the district manager as well. So unarchive is only available in the situation where a new plan hasn't been created. So I put those stipulations. I knew I was gonna word salad this. So here's the simple when archive and unarchive can be used. So those are added and available there. That again gives some flexibility for the managing users to be able to help with managing those plans, just so that some of that stuff isn't like all necessarily on the submitter. The other thing I have here is we pre-filtered the user grid to only show enabled users. So this again is under your district manager access. And so admin, district manager. And so if we go to our users here, you can see that this box right here, enabled, equals true. So that by default enters enabled in there so that this grid is automatically narrowed down, especially if the with bringing over the legacy data, if they had a lot of users that were disabled, then that's helpful to sort of filter them out. If they wanted to see if you wanted to see users that are disabled, you can just clear this out of here and then it would show everyone. But by default, it just includes that in there now to make it a little bit easier. And let's see. So Oh, you know what? I just realized it. I knew I was like, wait, where's my other section? Um, wait, is this my plan view? Oh, okay. Okay. It's in my next section. I knew I was going to talk about plan templates and I thought I missed it. Okay. We'll just keep going with the plan here. So the other thing we updated was allow the uploading of file sizes up to 30 MB for direct attachments on activities, plans, and committees. So that's like your attachment files. 100 MB for kiosk load and mass load, and 1 GB for files for the attachment loader. So it does specify the max file sizes. We've been adding those so that you can tell like what the file size is. I know this has been tough. Especially with like the attachments loader. The team has looked into options with like trying to increase that, but right now this is where, for to make sure that it can still run successfully, this is where our maximums need to be. I know we've been also talking with the team from Legacy Kiosk to see if there's anything we can do to help there. So if there's anything that changes, we'll keep you updated. But at this point in time, this is where the loaders are. So we have that specified in there. This is on the kiosk load page here. And then we also added warnings. So when user emails are not sent and an email is going to fail to send when like approving an activity or a plan, it does pop up a warning and let the user who's doing the action let them know that the email notification didn't send. So here's an example. This was my instance as a test instance, so I had the notifications disabled, but you can see it gives me a warning and it tells me the reason why it disabled, so or why it didn't send because it's disabled. So that's what it looks like there. And then we also did an upgrade to the document store dependency. In Ippy Dippy document store, you don't really see it anywhere. It's just what's working in the background to allow those attachments to be included on the transactions throughout the software. So not something that you see like a specific spot there. And then we had some bug fixes as well. So we have we fixed the importer. Okay, so the first section actually here, I kind of grouped together everything that had to do with the attachment loader. I mentioned we've been working on fixing some stuff with that attachment loader. The first thing we had noticed that it was ignoring some files. So it was ignoring CSVs because in the first version of the files that we had with those, the CSVs that were actually the extracts were included. So we had written the importer to ignore CSVs, not realizing that there may be a situation where the attachments on actual, like the actual attachments were CSVs. So we fixed that because the attachments are in a separate file now. We also fixed the importer not allowing multiple attachments on a single entity. So we found that like if there were 3 attachments that we're supposed to import to something, that's now fixed because it would load the first one and then skip it, but it'll load, any number of attachments there. Um, and some of these issues were also leading to an error that you were actually seeing when you attempted the upload that had like a malformed input error. So that's been resolved with what we've worked on. And the last one and the big one, Michelle had sent out a message about this already. So hopefully you all, have seen that and addressed this if needed. But I wanted to mention it just in case. So we did find before the 2025.13.0 release, any attachments that were imported before that point, it was looking at the files, but it was attaching them as empty files. So the actual attachments, if you once loaded, if you tried to open them, they were empty. And because we recognized that this was happening, we fixed this so that in that 13.0 release, we fixed this so that attachments would not upload as empty files. but we also knew that any attachments that were imported before that point were empty. So we ran a patch at that point to remove the empty files because we don't want, anybody to have to go in and remove them, yourself. So those empty files, if you had them, they've been removed. But what that means is that if you had a district in that situation, you would need to re-upload the attachments again to get the not empty files in there. So again, we already sent out a message about that, but just in case, we put this back on here, or I put this on here and I made it bold so that we had a chance to talk about it. So that is attachments. And then here's what I wanted to make sure to talk about was plan templates. Um, so when editing a plan template, only certain items can be updated. We were looking at this internally. Mary and I had been going over a couple things, and I just wanted to show you the team fixed some bugs to make sure that this functions as expected. But I also wanted to talk to you all about how this is basically expected to function. Um, and the main thing is that when you're creating a plan template, it's intended to be edited within the creation process. You can move things around, you can change your headers. But once you save that plan template, if you were to try and open it again and edit it, you're going to be very restricted on what you can actually edit. And basically, the intention is if you need to have a difference in the plan template, you would make a new plan template, and you can copy them. So here, let's take a look at one of my plan templates. Um, so if I come in here to this plan and I want to edit it, let me see here. Do I have a couple? Yes. Okay. So if I want to edit this, I can edit some things. Like I can edit the label. I can edit the labels here. But if I wanted to edit like the goal labels, I can't do that. The focus area groups, these are static. Now, mostly the intention is to preserve this for like history. If you do have any plans attached to this, it doesn't, if you don't have plans attached to it, the rules are still going to be the same, but that is like kind of why we've locked these down. Um, so, so yeah, so this is, so part of the bug fix was kind of making sure this functions properly where in this version you can't edit, but what I can do is I can copy this. So if I come in and copy the plan template, then I can say, okay, this is my, oops, actually I wanted to do, yeah, this is fine. Okay, so it's my copy of my Maple Leaf plan. We'll make it 1, 2, 3. And then I could make any changes here. I can add to the label. My focus area is down here now. I can reorder these. I can change the headers and that sort of thing. So it seems simple when we look at it. I mean, really, when I'm in here creating one and editing one, we want it to be seamless, but some of these things weren't working exactly how we had intended. So the team kind of went through and tweaked everything here to make sure that works properly so that, if you do have a case where you want to, update slash make a new plan template with some updates, that works pretty easily for you there. So then we just create this. And if we had our previous one, we could just go here and make this inactive. And then boom, now my new plan template is what's going to show in the dropdown when a user goes to make a plan instead of the previous one. So it's a pretty easy switch there. Okay, so that's all of this stuff here. We did have the hotfix in the middle of the month. That one was like a pretty quick one right after the release came out. There was a null error that was preventing startup, so the team got that out right away to fix that error. And then we sort of had some additional miscellaneous ones here. I'm not going to show, but um, we fixed some errors related to syncing professional certifications before loading them. So this was just the professional certifications have like a cycle where they will update for your districts on a regular basis. Well, if that hits you in the middle of loading the information before the professional certifications are originally loaded, that had caused an issue, so we prevented that. The edit button was missing from the committee form at one point, so we fixed that. Activity progress being null on activities was causing null pointers. Null is always like something was blank. So there was an issue with activity progress. Password expiration reminder notifications. So basically, when a password is close to expiration, it would send out an email. So that wasn't firing. We fixed that. And then the more button, so to add more columns, hadn't been working correctly after changing your grid preferences. So we went in and cleaned that. So, we're still pretty new in the Ippy Dippy project. So kind of like catching things as users begin using the software and really just doing some cleanup whenever we have that reported. They've really been rocking through the issues with the software. So yeah, so that's Ippy Dippy, and that is all I have. So, I believe I'm passing it to Lori here.
All right. Thank you, Amanda.
No problem. Let
Get
me
things
stop
set up here.
Okay.
You're a mean one, Mr. Finch.
So,
Oh my
I'm not
gosh.
sure you can see it very well, but I have my sidekick Max here.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
All right, let me get things situated. Gonna put Max down. We're dog sitting for my sister's puppy, so he's all out of sorts. And I will share my screen here. All right. I think we are good to go. Hopefully everybody's seeing my screen. Okay, like I said, we will get started on the USPS side of things. We had several updates to the
Lori.
mass load program so that you can now load lots of different areas and pieces that you couldn't before.
Lori, I don't want to
Lori.
interrupt you. I don't think we can see your screen.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, no,
Thank
that's
you.
okay. Oh, there we go.
Would help
Okay.
if I click share or which screen I'm
Okay,
sharing.
perfect. We can see now.
Thank
We can see
you.
now. No
Thank you.
problem.
Thank you. Okay, so as I was saying, we have several updates to the mass load program. We can now load pay groups, building codes, department codes, job calendar days. So under each of those options now that you can load, we've included the heading that will need to be included in your load file. And then which importable entity, when you actually go into the mass load program, which importable entity you're going to want to select. So just kind of outline those, put those here for your reference so that you can, if you have any questions about, headings, column headings, and which entity to use, it's all spelled out there for you. When it comes to the improvements, we actually, on the 2025 .19 release, we put out an enhancement for the ESS side of things relating to those data request changes, in particular the W2 digital delivery acknowledgement. And in doing so, we actually inadvertently, one of the side effects from that enhancement was it cleared out the last pay date on the USPS side of things. So that's, on the employee record, there's that last pay date. And I know districts, users reference that all the time. So it did cause a little, pain point for a little bit. We were able to get that corrected. And then that went out so that it actually fixed that issue. And then it also applied the last pay date to any of those that got zeroed or cleared out and were missing. So hopefully that's all been corrected now. So there shouldn't be any last pay date values that are cleared out or blank. Another improvement is the way that the W-4 information appears on an employee's direct deposit when no federal tax is withheld. So you can see here we have a screenshot of before and after. So what would happen is if an employee is using the new W-4 form and they did not have federal tax withheld, it would actually revert and print, and look like they were using the old W-4 form. And in fact, that's not what was happening at all. So you can see here, the before, it was showing the old W-4 and not when nothing was withheld. And now it will actually still retain that W-4 information that's valid, and show that they are in fact using the new W-4 even if there's no federal tax withheld. So we have that improvement. The next improvement was an improvement to payroll payments current, and those warning messages that appear for multiple positions. When multiple positions are included in the payroll, it now actually displays for the actual position that's causing the error and not all of the employees' positions. So just making that a little more helpful and, pointing the user to in the right direction, and, saying this is truly the position that's causing the problem, and they're able to go in and look at that specific position and not have to play the guessing game. We have a whole series of fields that we continue to, move from custom fields to an actual field of their own on, on the actual record. So we have a list here of all of those that were involved with the employee record. So I'm not going to go through and, you can read all of those that are actual fields now on the employee record. And then we also have, I scroll down here, the position type that was added to the position record. So under each of those, like the mass load option, changes that we talked about, we've spelled out the heading that's applicable to each of these new fields, and then any valid values and an explanation. So again, this is all in the mass load chapter. So if you go to the mass load chapter, you're going to see then all of the information. Excuse me, like if you open up the position record, you're going to see that that new position type is added down here, and then those values that apply to that particular position type. So if you have any questions on what's valid, what a value is referencing, go to the documentation, and those are all spelled out here. Again, as I've said in many times when we're talking about mass load, I go to the documentation and I copy the column headings right out of the chapter, right from the documentation, because a lot of times it's easy to, mistype or, not capitalize something or have a space in between something. And we all know that causes all kinds of heartaches when we go to actually load the file. So copy and paste it right out of the documentation to hopefully eliminate, mistyping something. When it comes to account mapping, back on the 2025.19 release, we did update and add a validation to look at each of those account dimensions and then flag an error if there was an extra character in any of those account dimensions. So before, we were just able to add basically whatever we wanted. And then it wasn't when we went to do employer distribution, things weren't, being charged the way that we thought they should be. And chances are there was an extra character or something in the line. It was pretty difficult to look through and find. So we made that easier in the prior release, but we were getting several tickets, and rightfully so. Just users were just not understanding the error message. So we've now improved that to just state that basically that the row exceeds the maximum number of characters allowed. So here's the error message prior to the update, and here's what it states now. So again, if you go to, whoops, if we would go to add a row of, it looks like I got logged out, sorry. If I would go to add a row of mapping, I had this all set up nicely, but anyway, we'll, instead of adding one, let's just add a character. So I'm going to add a 0 here. And when I click save, we can see now that I get that error that says that, it exceeds the maximum account dimensions allowed. One thing I wanted to point out was, because it's doing this validation now, keep in mind that it's validating any information that was already existing in account mapping. I think that was causing some confusion as well, because users were going in and adding a line or 2 or 3, and everything was fine with those lines that they were adding, but it's also validating anything already, within the account mapping program. So it might not necessarily be an issue with the new information that they're entering. It could be, something that's been there for, a period of time. And now the system is just validating those fields. And so, we might have to look at the whole, you know, picture and not just those specific lines that we've just added. All right. Moving on then, well, I'm sure that you guys have all experienced the same heartaches with STRS recently that we have. They put some changes in place on their end to accepting multi-part files. And, unfortunately, the change, I don't know that they, realized that it was going to affect, our side of things. But it did. And I'm sure that you received calls just like we did, or, the tickets that was apparent from the tickets that we received, saying that, they were no longer able to use the STRS_send procedure. So in conversation with STRS and our developers working, with their IT department, we were able to, isolate that, yes, the change that was made on their end for, multi-part files actually was a result of, it breaking the STRS_send procedure on our end. So we were able to work with them to get that resolved. So, it should not be an issue any longer, as long as everybody, although all of the ITCs that are self-hosted, as long as your, release is release, your applications are up to date with the most current release. Everything should be, going smoothly, and the users should be able to use that STRS send procedure like they were before. One thing I wanted to mention is if they're now receiving, when they do send their file, a message that says, HTTP code 200 message 1, that is okay. One actually equates to a successful post. I know it is very confusing to the user, and they're questioning, I'm not sure what this means. Is it truly an error? Do I need to be worried about something? As long as it says, this message here, everything should be fine. That means it was successful. We do have an issue, and I listed the issue here to improve that message so that it isn't as confusing as it is. And that is scheduled to be released on the 2025 .24 release. So just kind of an FYI, as long as it says 1, that's successful and everything should be good. They should also be getting their confirmation back from STRS saying that they've received their file. So, that's another, confirmation, reassurance to the district user that, everything is okay. Anybody still having issues with this procedure? Has anyone, we haven't heard anything in a bit, so I'm assuming that, after the release was installed, everything should be good. Okay. I'm sorry, I missed some questions in the chat. If we use Excel field names, it will pull the proper one to use for loads. I am assuming it does. I can verify that for sure, Heidi, and make absolute, get that clarified for you. But yes, that is, the benefit of using that type is it's going to pull the right field names and all should be well. So, but I will double check on that and make sure that that didn't get overlooked. And then, okay, and then Jen verified that, okay, it does pull the correct header. So some of you have tested this already, and it does look like it is working as expected. Okay, yeah, we'll run some checks on our end and make sure that all is good there. But thank you for bringing that up and bringing it to our attention. We'll double check on all that. All right. So everybody, just, circling back to the STRS send, nobody's had any recent issues, brought to their attention about users having issues with that. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the next improvement, and that is the employee onboarding. When it goes to adding the pay distribution, it was defaulting the ACH destination routing number to the first ACH destination that was on file. That is now defaulting to be blank. So it's going to force the user to actually physically select a routing number. So before, it was defaulting to a value, so that could get overlooked and missed, and then the wrong information was, populated and generated for that employee's pay distribution. So now it defaults to blank, and they will have to physically, select something from the drop down. Currently, there is an issue that we were made aware of that if a user selects the check option, when we put this new check in place or this new improvement in place, there's something that was a side effect of that was that if a user selects the check option, they're getting a severe error that says the direct deposit type cannot be blank. So the workaround is to actually have them select direct deposit first and then edit the record and change it to check. And, we understand that that's not very convenient, not very user friendly. So we do have, again, an issue, and I've included the issue number here that will also be part of the 2025.24 release to correct that. So if they see that error, and I think I have just a copy of that, a look, so you can see what it looks like. Just have them, select the check option first. I'm sorry, the direct deposit option first, and then save that, and then edit it and change it to check. So hopefully, there aren't many, users out there that are have employees selecting, to receive their pay by check. So hopefully that's not a super common error that they're gonna encounter, because I know that is a bit inconvenient, but we'll get that fixed here shortly, and they won't have to go to the extra extra steps to work around that bug. Okay, moving right along then to the bugs. We did update the payroll payments future, excuse me, pay account, the amount charged to allow commas. So they'll no longer have errors, excuse me, when they try to enter a comma. The system now accepts that. We also corrected an issue when users were reissuing payee payments, and they were selecting multiple payments to be reissued. If they would enter a starting check number, it was actually reissuing that check number, or assigning that the first check number, I'm sorry, on all of those payment checks. So we were getting, multiple checks with the same number. Again, that was if they would enter a starting check number. So that issue has been resolved. So if a starting check number is entered, then that will now assign, the check numbers correctly. So they'll increment by one and not have multiple payments with the same number. We corrected an issue with the report summary when it comes to the pay report, and the total direct deposits and the total checks, when those were reissued as checks. So the total here is what we're talking about when it comes to the pay report. So, a lot of districts use these totals for, balancing purposes. They know that their, direct deposit total should be this, their total check amount should be this. So, it is important that those totals be accurate. So when checks are reissued, I'm sorry, when direct deposits are reissued as checks, these checks, these totals, I'm sorry, will now be updated accordingly and be accurate. Okay, the next bug is the ability now for the system to check and verify if a payroll payments future record is entered for an archived employee, a position, or compensation. So it will flag an error. So just to briefly show you what I'm talking about, if I go ahead and I'm going to add a future record for this employee. Let's just add a miscellaneous record, and we're just gonna put $500. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead, excuse me, and I'm going to archive this compensation record. So I have an entry in future. I'm now archiving this record. If I go and I initialize, let me delete this. I was testing it before to make sure I had everything set up correctly. So if I go ahead and I initialize a payroll and just disregard these dates because they're a little outdated. It shouldn't take too long here because this is not a large set of files. Okay, so if I check my error report here, you can see here it flags an error that says that this future pay amount was not included. So it flags an error and it tells the employee, you know, this record is now archived, you know, it's not included in the payroll. Now, one thing I want to bring to your attention, because we have had a few questions on this, and I do plan to try to talk to the development team about, you know, the intention of how this is to work. If I go into future now and I look at this record here, it does say position 1. So of course, you know, this is still in future because we saw that, you know, on the pay error report, there was an error. It wasn't included into the payroll. If I open this record and I look at it, it defaults then to the next position. Or in other cases, it's defaulting to like that, say that the entry got added to a you know, last fiscal year's compensation, or a compensation that's no longer, you know, active, so to speak. It's defaulting then to the employee's current compensation. So I'm not clear on, you know, how that's intended to work. And, you know, if we want it to work that way. So yeah, I want to have a conversation and kind of talk that through, because we have had some questions come in on, you know, it's how it's applying, um, you know, that information now to a new position compensation. So at any rate, we do have that error now, so that, you know, if something is archived, it will not be allowed to be included in the payroll. So that is a great enhancement there. We had a couple reports of the quarter report, in particular, the line 5C, the quarter to date Medicare taxable wages not being reported correctly. And we pinpointed this, or narrowed this down to those employees that have partial Medicare pickup. So not sure how common it is for, you know, employees to have partial, but it is, you know, it is uh obviously it's, you know, applicable. So the figure has to be correct. And in this case, was doubling the amount. So that's been corrected. Should no longer have the issue when they go to balance that. Those Medicare taxable wages, you know, should be what they expected it to be. And then a couple last bug issues that were fixed. We actually, you know, improved the fact that payroll items were actually able to be incorrectly, so to speak, created for the wrong type. And this was a very isolated situation where a user had started editing one payroll item and then they created another payroll item. So it actually created the new payroll item for the wrong type. So, not a very common situation for that to happen, but at any rate, it shouldn't happen. So we did attempt to fix that problem. And what happened was, a side effect of that was we disabled payroll item templates from being used. So you probably had lots of questions come in about users no longer being able to use payroll item templates. It's great that they're using those because they are very helpful and can save, misentering something. So that's wonderful. So what we did was, revert those changes and take those changes out of uh, out of action, so to speak, so that now users can go back to using those payroll templates like they are used to using, and we will continue to look into fixing that a different way. All right, and then lastly, just we talked about the fact that the last paid date was being inadvertently cleared out from those W-2 digital delivery acknowledgement uh, options on the ESS side. So this patch was applied then to go out and basically update any last pay date that was blank. So that's what the patch was for. Are there any questions on anything we covered payroll related? All right, I don't see anything in the chat. So this Grinch is going to stop sharing and I will pass it over to Michelle.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori. Assuming everyone can see my screen here, got the recap notes up. Happy Halloween, everybody. And we were talking earlier, I think this is, we usually have our Fridays with Fiscal on the first Friday of the month, and this one we kind of bumped up a little bit. So we've never had anything on Halloween before. It worked out perfectly this time. So what I'll do now is I will get started and just talk about the updates that were made to employee self-service the last month. Just going to set up my chat here. Make sure. All right. And so for employee self-service, we had two regular, well, really kind of three regular releases and one hotfix that just went out. Yes, a couple days ago. So the 20 and the 22 were the regular ones. There was an internal one done on the 21 version. That was just an internal release, and all of those coding changes were done on the 22 release. So, we're not going to see, if you look at the release notes, they're going to look identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through and demo some of these features and improvements. And so going down to the new features, excuse me, we had a new option, a much needed option added underneath the timesheet manager. It's the timesheet export history. And this mimics the similar behavior that the leave export history, how that behaves. So I'm just going to quick go over there, jump over there. And I'm in my ESS application, and under timesheet manager, if I go to exported timesheet history, screen looks familiar because this is very similar to the leave export history that you are used to seeing underneath the leave requests. And so basically the grid is set up the same way. So you have the ability here is an export that already took place. There were 2 timesheets on that export, and I can click on the view to view them. And then I can also click in here to see the details of each of the timesheets. Close that window. And if I wanted to generate a CSV file again of this one, I would use the export again. Or if I want to revert the timesheet details, I can click on the revert, and then that will give me the option to select all or specific timesheets to revert those. And what that will do is it will remove the exported status on those. I feel like Minnie's hat is slipping here. And it will also change it back to an approved status. So that's what this is going to do. So very similar to what you're already experiencing on the leave export. So that's what that's all about. Another thing that we've done is we had requests about disabling the sub coordinator view and the whole sub ability to check mark the sub check boxes when creating a leave form, just to disable that entirely. So what we did is we implemented a new option underneath the ESS functionality. So I'll go over to that underneath system, configuration, and the ESS functionality. And it is the substitute needed option. So when I go in and disable this, then what's going to happen is it will no longer show the sub coordinator option on the menu. So that will disappear. And also when creating a leave request form, that sub needed field that's showing on there, that will be removed. So there's no way that somebody can go in and click on it to request that they need a sub. And obviously there's no menu option anymore. And so that sub coordinator role really won't be used for that district. So that's what that enhancement or new feature will do. Also, we added a new role called payslips and W-2s to allow access to only the W-2 and payslips in the application. And so let me just go in there. I'm going to go to a certain user here and just show you the new role. So I'm going to go ahead and just edit and my screen out of the way here. And it's way down at the bottom, payslips and W-2s. So the intention of this is for those employees that have left the district and they still need access and you still want to provide access for them to view their pay slips and their W-2s. So when you do click on this and you do select this one, you want to make sure too, if they've already left the district, that the user role is removed as well. And so what happens then is when that person logs in, they're only going to see the view print payslip and the view print W-2 menu options. So that's all they're going to have access to. Okay, so before I get into improvements, any questions on the new features? All right, I'll move on to the improvements. Some of the improvements that we did in the prior month is we did do some improvements to the audits report. Improved the user look of it, some of the options. So I just want to go into some of these that you're seeing here. So I'm going to go back into my instance. And the audit report is under the system manual or system option. And so it's audit reports is what it's called. And so the first thing that you're going to see is it's going to basically prompt you for what do you want to audit on? And so what we've done is, a lot of these have already been out here, but we have added the configuration store, which is helpful because if I want to go in and generate a report on anything that I have changed via the configuration menu options, that will now show up on the audits report. So that's a nice one. Also, I'm going to go down to the user one here as an example. If I select user, all of these options have already been available. Maybe they just look a little bit better, the formatting and such. But one of the things that we did as well is we added like to select certain employees underneath the revision object filters. And so if I go in and actually select a certain person and generate a report, then what's going to happen is it's going to show me all the activity from on that employee. So if you want to see things by a certain user as to what they did in the system, you would use the username option. But if you want to generate a report of the activity for a certain employee, then you would go down here and select that specific option. And when I do that, and click add, it's going to pull that in. So that's, I think, the new options that were done underneath the actual audits report. One other thing I wanted to mention is that, for this particular option, the roles required are either admin or district manager. What we've also done is we've enhanced it so that other various roles can run an audit report on demand. So if I go back up to leave requests and I go down to view district leave, what can happen is I can go in and actually, view, and this could be a standard user as well. So if I go in here and select, to view one of my leave requests, there is an audit report option now available. And so when you do that, because you're just wanting to generate a report on just this particular leave request, just go ahead and generate it as is. You don't need to put in start and stop dates. It will just produce a report of the audit that took place for this particular leave. So that's basically, what that option does. And it's available in several of our menu options here. Employer data change, date codes, the timesheet group chains, leave request group chains. So again, if I go down to the group chains here, view one of these, I'm going to have an audit report available there as well. So nice feature to have. So you can just audit and generate a report on just that particular leave request, group chain, and so on. So that's basically what that's doing. So if, and it is, available for various roles as well. So like I said, even standard users, I log in as my go-to Susan Dean, who just has a user role, and she logs in and goes to her leave requests. She will have that audit option as well. So any questions about the audit enhancements? All right, I'm going to move on to some of these other ones here. I won't demo all of these. Let me go back. Improving filtering on the monitor service loggers grid. So underneath system, there's a monitor option, and that's available to those admin and I believe district manager roles, where the loggers option in there, the loggers tab, we've improved the filtering in there. So it's easier to filter on specific things underneath there. This next one here, improving the navigation error message when attempting to create a leave request. We received a couple tickets on this, is that someone's going in to create a leave request and they get this navigation error message pop up, but it really doesn't explain why. And I think the one that we came across in these tickets is that that person didn't have an active position, or that position wasn't a position that they were able to see based on the job status settings they have in ESS. So we improved that now so that basically when they go in, it will say this user has no valid positions available. So that way it's a little more intuitive instead of just seeing that 500 error or whatever, or that navigation error that it was. This next one, improve how a name is found and displayed in emails when automatic resubmission jobs send those emails. So this applied to those automatic resubmission ones. So what happened is the email, when you view the email, it said something like the following leave request has been created by null. And it didn't include the actual employee's name that, requested that. And so we have fixed that and improved that so that it will produce the person's name. The improved forgot password user interface. I'm going to show you this in our documentation. We had several requests, and it was in regards to, blow this up here, make that a little bit bigger, is this used to say over here underneath the reset password, it used to say old password, and it was causing confusion, thinking that people had to, like, I don't remember my old password. That's why I selected forgot password. And so what we've done is we've made this a little more intuitive. Just clarified that basically when they go through these steps to reset their password, obviously they click on the forgot password option on the main menu, and then they go in and put in their username, click reset password. It sends them, or it puts a little pop-up on the screen saying an email will be sent, and so they get the email. I think we may have tweaked this a little bit as well, and we say a temporary password has been set for you, which will expire in however much time that's set up in their configuration screen, which in this case is 5 minutes. So please use this when resetting your password, and we provide the temporary password. So basically it's a better match now. So once they click on this link to take them to the reset password menu, then basically they're taking this temporary password, pasting it in here, and then entering their permanent password that they want to use and click on change password. So just a little more intuitive now for them to know exactly that temporary password is the password they got from the email. Allowing users to edit initiated employee profile data change requests. So I'm going to log in as my go-to, Susan Dean. And for one thing that we added recently was this data change option that allows them to see the data change requests that they have submitted. Whether those are, actually already been approved or still in an initiated status, they will see the progress of that data change request. So in this, what we've done in this last month is we have, for those that are at an initiated status, if the user goes back in to create another data change request, it's going to update the existing initiated status. So it will keep those changes, and I'll show you those. It'll keep those changes from the original, which is here were her original request. You wanted to change your address. And then on this second data change request, she requested that the city and the state were updated as well. So it retains the original, adds the new request on the same data change request. So it's not going to create an additional data change request, which is nice. So that way, then when the data change manager comes in to take a look, she can see all of her requests that she made just on this one initiated data change request. And then from there, the data change manager would go in then and approve that or reject it. And when they approve it, it gets automatically sent to payroll. So that's what this will do, is just allow it to update that existing data change request with her new data change additions. And the last thing, or looking to the last thing here. So allow, and this is where I was talking about allow edit employee profile data change requests. Two more things for improvements. Improve the max file size. This was kind of a byproduct of Ippy Dippy. We made some changes to enlarge the file size of uploads for the kiosk import information. And we also did this for our mass load in ESS, which I believe you can only mass load users at this point in there. And so, but we increased the file size, I think, to, what was it, 30 megabytes. So if it's larger than that and they try to load it in, they'll get a message saying file too large. So pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, so that's an enhancement they made to increase the file size on that. And this last one here, under the users grid, the email column filter, we improved that. So instead of a starts with, we changed it to a contains so that you can enter in whatever you need on that email. If you just know maybe the last name, then you can just enter that and it will filter properly. And it will include anything that contains that name. So nice improvement there. Okay, any questions about our improvements? We also had a couple bugs. And the one that I was just talking about was a bug that was just hot fixed, where with that new W-2 payslip role, it was causing problems with people trying to acknowledge their W-2 digital agreement. So we fixed that a couple days ago. And then we also had one patch, and this was to prevent duplicate audit transactions from those ASOP leaves when they're updated. That really didn't, it's kind of a behind the scenes thing. So there was nothing that the user needed to be concerned about with that. So we fixed that as well. So yes, those were the ESS enhancements and bug fixes and new features that took place last month. Any other questions regarding the ESS updates? And if not, I just want to talk about what's coming up. It's November, everybody. I mean, I can't believe we're November starts tomorrow. It's just unbelievable how fast this year has flown. And so the rest of our Fridays with Fiscal are going to pertain to end of year type of topics. So next Friday, we're digging into our calendar year end review. We're going to be doing payroll on the 7th, and then we're going to be doing USAS on the 14th. So registration links are here. And then if we look ahead in December, we'll be covering W-2 special reporting situations and the Croatian utility. So that's what we're at. We're already thinking about, planning topics for next year. Again, if you guys have suggestions, when you fill out your evaluation forms, please put those in there for any suggested topics that you would like to see covered next year. And we'll take a look at those and see what we can do. And if you guys don't have any other further questions, I believe we're good to go. On behalf of the fiscal support staff at SSDT, we hope you guys all have a beautiful weekend this weekend. Enjoy your Halloween, and we will see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you. Happy Halloween.